We were looking at the steady state and how do we find key endogenous variables in the steady state. We looked at how do we find capital per worker and output per worker in the steady state, both mathematically and graphically. Similarly, we want to look at finding steady state consumption per worker. So first, let's look at it mathematically. Now, consumption per worker is given to us as small c, because remember, lowercase letters represent per worker variables, is equal to consumption divided by obviously of number of workers. And then we know consumption in this case is 1 minus sy, because remember, we're assuming savings is equal to small sy, where s is the savings date. So consumption is 1 minus sy. And then we know y by n is just output per worker. So consumption per worker is 1 minus savings day times output per worker. So now this is in general. So in the steady state, if you want to find the steady state value of consumption per worker, we just plug in the steady state value of output per worker y star, which is fk star, in order to get c star. Right, so this is in general, C is 1 minus Sy. If you plug in the steady state value of output per worker Y star, you'll get the steady state value of consumption per worker C star. Now, graphically, how do we show steady state consumption per worker? For this, just keep in mind for any given case, the vertical distance in the Solow diagram between Y and I is C. Because remember, I is also your savings, right? So output minus your investment, which is equal to savings, is going to be your consumption. So here we can see that at K1, the vertical difference between Y1 and I1 is C1. So steady state consumption per worker is given by the vertical difference between steady state output per worker Y star and steady state investment or savings per worker SY star, right? So this vertical difference is C star, right? So it's a vertical difference between Y star and I star. I star would be this, so Y star minus I star is C star. So in general, it's the vertical difference between output and investment per worker in the Solow diagram. So if you take this vertical distance at K star, where you're taking the vertical difference between the steady state value by Y star and steady state value of investment or savings per worker as Y star, then that is C. Then that gives us C star.